Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how do you carry the TCP, how do you work with the TCP and the VKS in a way in which you can keep the internals safe from humidity, condensation, things that are going to get inside the launcher, are going to cause problems in the long term. You see all this? This is the condensation. It's very wet from the temperature and the pressure change. It's extremely cold and extremely wet. And that's the principle that we're going to be talking about today. Wow, that is cold. Is hot air holds moisture as it gets cold. As the pressure drops, the temperature drops dramatically. That water that's in the air turns to liquid and it forms on the outside here. So I'll show you the target that I was shooting here. This was with an 8-gram CO2, and I was shooting Grimburg joules, a magazine of 6 with an 8-gram CO2. And this is a pretty thick box, and you can see it went through the other side. And I'm going to drop it down here and show you what was inside. So inside here was this thing. It's hard to see. It was another thing, and it's totally destroyed. And so that's pretty good for a 8-gram CO2. Little experiment here. Let's take a look. So I got a glass inside refrigerator, and I pull it out, and immediately you see the condensation forming. I can write my name. So the glass was completely dry. We just put it in the refrigerator. When I pull it out, as soon as that cold glass comes out onto the room temperature, the air in the room temperature, even though it's not very humid in here, it's right now it's 75 degrees. Everybody knows this, but I just wanted to show this. This is what can happen if you were coming from bringing your launcher from outside on a cold day, not freezing, above freezing, but really cold, close to freezing, a little above freezing. And then you come into a warm environment. As soon as that launcher touches the warm air, the moisture that's in that warm air is going to condense just like this. And any of the air that was inside of the launcher is going to be exposed to this air, and eventually you're going to get moisture that's going to get inside as well. Let's talk about the TCP in regard to this, because this is the one that you're going to be, just by definition, because this is small, this is portable, this is something that you would want to carry. That's the whole benefit of having the TCP. That's why I think everyone should have one of these and a VKS or something, and or something in between size. But this I think is great to carry. I have not made up my mind about holster yet. I'm very indecisive about certain things. I have this, and I use a bag at this point. And if I need to go out, it goes inside this bag, and it fits in there really well. And I just carry it over my shoulder, and it's got a low profile, and it just works really well for me. And all I have to do is reach in, and it's ready to go. So this is the way that I do it. But one of the things you need to think about is, depending on the type of weather that you encounter, if you're going out and you're carrying, no matter how you carry, whether you're carrying it on your body in a coat, in a holster, when you leave your house is warm, you go out into the cold, there's going to be condensation. That hot air that is all in your marker is going to condense, and that hot air when it gets cold, will turn to liquid, and you will get condensation. And you know this from practical experience. Condensation is a problem. So these are really issues that people need to think about as you carry this in and out, in and out, in and out, day after day. If you don't take it out very much, or you take it out only under certain, perfect conditions, then it doesn't matter. But in a cold winter, or opposite, in a summer situation where I carry this and it's really hot outside, and then you go inside and then it gets cooled down inside of an air-conditioned building for a couple hours, and then you come back outside, you're going back and forth, and you're causing the same types of issues. You're going from a hot outside, you go into a building, and then you have the risk of condensation as the air cools. So this is something that unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about it. All you can do is be aware of it, and it just emphasizes even more the importance of routine maintenance and getting in there and wiping it down and keeping it oiled and lubed. The oil and lube is there in part, one, to keep your O-rings from drying out, but two, to also keep moisture out from contacting the metal surfaces. So if you're coating your bolt, metal parts with a little bit of oil, a little bit of grease, that really goes a long way. And there's a lot of places inside here that it needs oil, it needs grease. And so we'll be talking about that a little bit more in the future. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of that. And next, I want to talk to you a little bit about the HPA tank on your VKS. I figured I would just take a few minutes to explain to you the setup that I use. I do this hand pumping, and I do it on a regular basis before the tank gets down too incredibly low. And it takes about 15-20 minutes. And you use steady pumping, use your force, your body weight to push it down. It's really not that hard. I find this is a good workout, or a good pre-workout. Actually, I just finished a workout, so I'm actually doing this to cool down. And this is the way I like to do it. I only have one VKS, and this is no problem for me. But if you have multiple guns, maybe it's an issue. It's certainly something that you would get tired of after a while. So I do this, and it works really well. This hand pump is cheap, and I don't have to drive across town to fill up my tank. So something that works that you can consider. All right, just finished pumping. I just want to show you how I do this, just for your information. I really like these pumps because they're sufficient to pump up a 13 CI tank. The 13 CI is the stock that comes with your VKS. And there's more than sufficient shots. This is a very air efficient launcher. The number of shots that you get from a 13 CI tank with 3000 PSI is more than sufficient to shoot 2 mags. More than you would need for any situation, as long as you keep it topped up and you don't let it run down. If it's half full, then you may have some issues. But I use this hand pump, like I just showed you. I've filled it all the way up, and I like to fill it all the way up to 3000 PSI. And you see here, 3000 PSI. And that way I can keep my eye on it. If I'm putting it in storage and just holding it, I can tell if it's going down or there's any leak, but I have yet to have any leaks from this in the last year. And as well with the hand pump, I haven't had any trouble as well. I lube the shaft here before I use it each time, and I warm it up. And then whenever this starts to get slightly warm, I will take a break for a minute or two, and then I'll keep pumping. And so it's really been quite reliable for my purposes so far. So let's bleed the line. So what you want to do, I'm going to come down here, and I've got this really tight, so I have to use a pair of pliers. Okay. You bleed the line first, and then you can come and remove it here. And so now you're done, and it's fully pumped up. The last thing I forgot to show you was these. I think everyone should order some of these. They're very cheap. You can buy a pack of 5 or 10 of these. But these are really important to protect this fill nipple. If you're keeping this in the house like I am, it's probably not necessary, but I see a lot of people with these things open. Trash, dust, various things can get down in there into your tank, and there's just no need for that. So I have one of these. It just fits on this little piece right here. Let me try to do this with one hand. So it goes on there like that, and then you just pull it over, and it's black. It looks really good, and there you go. Now it's covered, and these are easy to lose if you're out paintballer and you're out in the field. That's why they sell them in packs of many of them, but they're really inexpensive, and I think it's for the investment in your marker and keeping your tank clean and not having any problems with your tank. This is a must-do. Another thing you can do if you don't have a humidity reading on your thermostat for your in-home system, you can buy one of these from the drugstore, CVS pharmacy, these kind of places. This is from Vicks, and it has a humidity reading and a temperature reading, and it allows you to carry this around the house. It's battery operated. You can see it just changed up to 30% relative humidity here. I'm in a different part of the house, so even within the house, the readings vary from place to place. You want to be in an area that's on the low end of the scale. You can see here 10-20% would be dry, too dry for comfort. Normally you want it to be in the comfort zone between 30 to 60. That's where it's the most comfortable for us, but if you're pumping up your HPA tank, you might want to have it down below 20%. And it might be hard for you to find the best spot, but one of these you can carry it around the house. You can find the right spot, and they're very cheap, and they're very good option. Now it went up to 31%. So it does vary depending on where you move within your house. Just show you, this is our unit that's for the outside air conditioning system and heat. And right now it's 19% outside. So this is the relative humidity in the air outside the house. And you can see, I was just showing you, it's about 30-31% inside the house. This is really ideal if you can pump in these temperatures, but of course you're not going to have your windows open in the middle of winter. But this right now is 56 degrees, and on a day like this, pumping in a more dry condition is better. And before you take your launcher or your HPA tank to a paintball shop, be sure to ask them how they're doing it, how often they change their filters, what's the relative humidity reading that they're doing the pumping in. It's important because you have metal parts, and it's just important to make sure that there is the minimal amount of humidity that gets into the marker, preferably none. It needs to be either in a very low humid environment or combined with filters on the pumps, and all of that should keep it down to a minimum. All right, so let me wrap up this video with a couple last minute points. One being, when you buy your new launcher, it always comes with one of these desiccant packs, and that's there for a reason. You'll find this in just about any of the Pepperball products that I've bought. These come with it, and I keep them there, and I have extras that I use and pepper them throughout when I'm storing my launchers. These desiccants will soak up moisture. They're really important to have. Always throw one in everything that you have. Another thing keep in mind is when you store your Grimburg jewels, like these, you should also throw one of these inside as well and store them together. And that's really important because my understanding is that these can be affected by moisture. They can soak up moisture. The composition of these can degrade over time if there's in a really humid, moist environment. And so keep them dry and keep a desiccant pack in there, and you should be get the most longevity out of your jewels. And I don't know if it's completely necessary, but some people go as far as to keep their jewels and other projectiles for less lethal inside an ammo case, just like this. You can't go wrong with this. It's airtight, sealed, and this is really the proper way to store things. But I don't routinely do that, but I will occasionally put some in here as well.